Welcome back, everybody. My name is Tucker, and this is a weird one. In today's video, we're talking about some Marvin Bagley stuff. And Bagley, in my opinion, is a guy that's just so incredibly talented and is someone that I was really looking forward to potentially having a breakout year this year. And it's been a rough start to the year for him from a statistical standpoint. Maybe he's not getting the minutes he wanted to. But there's been some rumblings now around Sacramento, and some of them public, some of them private, that Marvin Bagley, specifically his dad, does not want him to be in Sacramento anymore, and is requesting him to be traded, and he's tweeted these things publicly, and we can't, take his dad's opinion as, Bagley's opinion himself. But this is definitely an interesting situation because there's not a ton of precedent for a player that was drafted as highly as Bagley was, and now 2 years later, 3 years later, he's in his third season, hasn't had a ton of opportunity because of injury or otherwise, and is still a very talented player. That I have not wavered on. There's not a ton of precedent on those type of guys being traded. The one that comes to mind, of course, is Markelle Fultz, but that was an entirely different situation where the injury and the things he was going through were very different than what Marvin Bagley is currently going through, where it's just typical, look good as a rookie, had some injury issues, missed basically all of his second season, now has come out in his third season, hasn't been great. There's not a ton of precedent for trading guys like that, and this is a weird situation because if the Kings decide that they want to keep Marvin Bagley, for the most part, he's going to be there for the next, for the first 5 or 6 years of his career, because typically, the only way that you can get out of Sacramento if you're Marvin Bagley is either they trade you, which if they don't want to, they're not going to, or you give up your restricted free agency. So you can become a free agent after a year like 4, year 5. I don't remember the actual details, but he would have to give up a ton of money, essentially. If Sacramento or someone offered a big contract, he would have to decline it, become an unrestricted free agent, and he would become, I believe it's after year 4, become a free agent. That's his only way out, and he would have to give up a ton of money. The NBA is made for, talented young players to stay with the team that they are drafted to if the team that drafted them wants to keep them. And so the bottom line in terms of the trade stuff, which we can talk about specifics later, it's going to be difficult for Bagley to leave Sacramento unless they want to get rid of him, right? And it's been a tough start to his career and a tough start to this season, but the weird thing about all of this is the Sacramento Kings are actually decent. They're what are they? They're 3-3, right? And they beat the Nuggets twice, they beat the Suns once. They're actually a decent team. And I think it's easy to, if you're Marvin Bagley's dad, and this kid has been, a stud at every level of basketball he's played up until the NBA, and has been, incredible player, really talented player, coveted recruit, really good college player. And I think it's easy to, once he gets to the NBA and has some struggles, to blame the Kings, right? It's not necessarily one of the better franchises in recent NBA history. It's a team that certainly has a history of, maybe in your opinion or others' opinion, screwing up draft picks and drafting talented players, but not necessarily putting them in positions to succeed. I think it's possible that maybe he isn't a huge fan of Luke Walton as a coach. And all those things are really, really easy to, I think, blame the Kings for. But at the end of the day, I mean, there are guys that are in a similar situation to Bagley and have not been given as many chances as Bagley and are succeeding in Sacramento, with the name being Richaun Holmes that comes to mind here. I mean, he's a guy that has, established himself as a starting caliber big, as a guy that's going to be playing in front of Bagley. And you can agree with Walton on that or not, but he's taken advantage of the opportunities put in front of him. And quite frankly, Bagley hasn't. And, I'm sure the Kings would love for Marvin Bagley to be their starting big. That would be much better for them. He has certainly a higher ceiling longer term than Richaun Holmes, because this is a guy that is an incredible athlete, can rebound the ball extremely well, has some post skill, has some perimeter skill. I think long term can be a really good player. And the only problem with him coming into the league was defensively. I mean, Duke had to go to a zone for most of the year because he couldn't figure out how to guard a ball screen. Him and everybody else on that roster couldn't figure out how to guard a pick and roll, so they had to play zone for most of the year. And that was the biggest issue with Bagley, was he couldn't figure out how to play defense. And the offensive stuff, that offensive skill is all still there. That athleticism is all still there. But he has to figure out how to be a good NBA player. And it's clear that it's not just going to be given to him. Now, are there going to be details that come out that I'm unaware of? Absolutely, of course. There's going to be smaller things that, that are going on behind the scenes. Maybe Bagley doesn't want to be traded. Maybe he's perfectly happy in Sacramento and it's just his dad going off on a rogue tweet. Or maybe the Kings really haven't treated him well. And if you want to blame the Kings for this, I think that's a fair thing to do. Just given the history of the Kings, I think that's fine. I don't think anybody's going to blame you for that. But at a certain point, you have to earn the minutes that you're getting, and I hope that he does that because I really want to properly evaluate this guy. He is getting some minutes, but he's not playing particularly well. And, until that happens, it's going to be really difficult to be on his side with this type of stuff and start thinking, man, the Kings are really wasting away a really talented player until we actually see some of that talent on the court. You can see it in flashes, but, throughout an NBA game, we need to see it. So, maybe he gets traded this year or next. I don't know. If it gets significantly worse and we get like real reports from guys like Woj and Shams that, he's unhappy or the Kings want to trade him, whatever the case may be, maybe there'll be a Marvin Bagley trade machine at some point this year. Again, not a ton of precedent for guys that are actually playing and are talented that, were just drafted in the top 5 a few years ago being traded within their rookie contract. There's really not a ton of precedent for that. You can look at other guys, that are going to be restricted free agents this offseason, guys like Larry Marketing, guys like Jared Allen. Those guys are going to stay on their roster and not be traded this season. And so Marvin Bagley is a similar case, right? I mean, he's getting minutes, maybe not as many minutes as he would want to. He's had some struggles at times, but once he gets healthy, once he, shows some things on the court, I think then would be the time to properly evaluate whose side to be on here. The one thing I do know is his dad doesn't need to be tweeting this stuff out. Like that, that's only going to make things more difficult for his kid is, having the entire team knowing that, or not knowing if he wants to be there. You know what I mean? Like that's going to be one of the most difficult things for him as a basketball player to work through is his teammates don't know, hey, do you want to be here? Coaching staff doesn't know, hey, do you want to be here? That's not going to help your kid. So that should definitely be put away. But we'll see at the end of the day. I still think he's super talented. I would imagine, again, that because of the context of this draft, the fact that they took, Marvin Bagley ahead of Luka Doncic, the fact that one of the reasons they didn't take Luka is because they had concerns about his dad, and now Marvin Bagley's dad is tweeting out public trade requests. The context of all that, the Kings are motivated to make this work. They're motivated to make Marvin Bagley be their starting big moving forward. Typically just like strictly from saving face. Like they want Marvin Bagley to be good to justify selecting him where they did ahead of Luka and Trae Young and all the other talented guys in this draft class that came after him. So we'll see what happens. Like I said, Marvin Bagley up to this point, in his basketball career has never failed. He has been really good at every level of basketball up until the NBA. And, sometimes that's just where it stops for certain guys. And other times, there's struggles at the beginning of careers and then guys end up being really, really good players. There's plenty of, cases throughout NBA history. You can go back and look at someone, even like Chauncey Billups, who ends up winning a title. He got, he was on like 3 different teams in his first 4 seasons. The Celtics traded him like 3 months into his rookie season, there are plenty of cases where guys just weren't in the right fit. They weren't in the right situation or it just didn't work out for them, injury or otherwise, and they move on to a different situation and they have really, really good careers. Maybe that's the case with Marvin Bagley. Maybe it isn't. But what I do know is that, it's unlikely at the moment that he's going to be traded. And then, unless some more details come out about this, that's going to be my stance moving forward. So we'll see. Keep an eye on Marvin Bagley, possible trade scenario there. But for right now, probably just tell his dad to stay off Twitter, focus on his game, do what he can do, control what he can control. And then, if he becomes a really good player, he has a lot more options then after that. But that is going to be the end of today's video. And I thank you all very much for watching. Once again, my name is Tucker. If you missed any of my previous videos, then be sure to check out the boxes on screen. I upload twice a day, every day, all throughout the NBA offseason. All throughout the NBA season, So it's a great place for consistent NBA content. You can also leave a like rating on the videos as well. Helps me out a ton. Lets me know that you're enjoying the content and helps you get out to more people on YouTube as well. But yeah, with all this thing said, forgot about the socials. You can also check me out at various socials at the bottom of the screen. There's a link tree down in the description below. With all those things said, hope you guys have an awesome rest of your day, and I will see you all next time.